The 31st of July is the feast day of St. Ignatius of Loyola, patron saint of soldiers. Welcome to Festal Footnotes. Most of us around the world have heard of the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits. Much of Latin America and Asia were evangelized by Jesuit priests. Even today, they occupy a well-established place in the Roman Catholic religious life. The Jesuits and the spirituality they espouse are the legacy of St. Ignatius, a 16th century Basque, Spanish, soldier-cum-priest, and a handful of like-minded Catholic scholars. The seeds from which the Jesuit order sprouted come from Ignatius and his experience of conversion. Ignatius was born on October 23rd, 1491, the youngest of 13 children. His mother died soon after his birth, and he was raised by the wife of a local blacksmith. As a boy, Ignatius entered into service to a relative in Castile as a page. At the age of 17, he enlisted in the Castilian army and soon became known as a fashion-conscious womanizer with a penchant for dueling. In 1509, at the age of 18, he rose in the ranks to become a servant of the court to the Duke of Najera, enjoying high status and a wide degree of influence due to his strong diplomatic and leadership skills. The young soldier had everything he could have dreamed of and more, and all that changed in 1521. When his leg was shattered on the battlefield by a stray cannonball. His leg healed crooked, the vain young man underwent numerous surgeries without anesthetic to try to straighten it. The efforts were in vain, and Ignatius would spend the rest of his life with one leg shorter than the other. During his lengthy convalescence, he had only two books to read, De Vita Christi, or The Life of Christ, by Ludolf of Saxony, and a collection of the lives of the saints. He read both many times, but De Vita Christi became the catalyst for conversion. As a Spaniard, Ignatius was of course a lifelong Catholic, but he'd never been overly concerned with God or with spiritual things. His youthful passions had instead turned to constructing romantic fantasies about glory and battle and luck and love, but as he read and reread Ludolf's Life of Christ on his sickbed, he found that dwelling on those romantic thoughts, though most enjoyable in the moment, brought him later to what he would term desolation, a state of disappointment and hopelessness. On the other hand, when he would meditate on the lives of the saints and the teachings of Christ, he would receive long-lasting joy and peace, or what he would come to call consolation. This simple dichotomy of consolation and desolation would form the basis for Ignatian's spiritual discernment. Likewise, a simple method of contemplation described in De Vita Christi would become the backbone for the spiritual exercises Ignatius later designed for his Jesuit postulants. In 1523, Ignatius embarked on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. He was determined to stay there, but within a few months, the Franciscan brothers sent him back to Europe, where he began theological studies. During the 1530s, he moved to Paris, where he gathered a group of 6 companions, including Francis Xavier and Peter Fabier, with whom he founded the Society of Jesus in 1539. Ignatius never lost the sense that he was called to fight under the banner of his king. The Jesuits were run with military rigor, establishing a network of schools stretching around the world. He simply came to realize that the king he was called to fight for was not the king of Castile, but rather Christ. St. Ignatius died on July 31st, 1556, and was canonized a saint, a process which usually takes centuries, within 70 years. Ignatian spirituality infuses much of contemporary contemplative practice. Ignatius always believed that his principles of discernment were applicable to all areas of Christian life. Ignatian spirituality focuses on discerning God's will by engaging the imagination and emotions in contemplating Scripture and the life of Jesus. Ignatius saw most of the choices one makes in life, not as choices between right and wrong, but as choosing between multiple good paths. He taught that discernment isn't so much about figuring out what God has planned for me, as it is selecting the path that will bring God the greatest possible glory, which usually includes joy and peace for me as well. By seeking to be freed from attachment to the vain things of this world, Ignatius's romantic dreams of chivalry as a youth, we open ourselves to a deeper attachment to Christ and a deeper love for God and all God's creation. Ignatius teaches us to be vigilant and to delight in doing the will of our heavenly Lord. St. Ignatius of Loyola is the patron saint of the cities of Belo Horizonte in Brazil and Antwerp in Belgium. He's also the patron saint of all Jesuits, all educators, and all soldiers, which is appropriate for a man who combined all three of those roles so effectively in his own life.